Hey everybody, my name is Kim. If this is your first time tuning into my channel, welcome, and I hope you stick around after the end of this video. If this is not your first time, so from the title of today's video, I will be discussing 4 things that I learned during my nurse practitioner certification process. So I've been a registered nurse for 5 years, and I most recently passed my nurse practitioner certification exam. And on my channel, I do share a video where I did not pass my exam on the first try, and I fast forward to where I do pass the exam. And there were 4 things that I took away from that process. So let's start with number 1. Number 1, you have to choose a test date. I realized that I was so excited after completing school that I have all of this availability, all of this free time. It was about 4 or 5 weeks after school was done that I realized that I never did anything. No paperwork was submitted, no application process in process. I barely know what steps to take in order for me to get the process going, but it's very essential for you to choose a test date, because that then can set a goal. Sometimes with the paperwork process, your school has its share, you have to do your share. There may be paperwork that needs to be notarized, etc., etc. Money needs to be paid in order for you to get the actual test date. So it's really important to, of course, enjoy and celebrate that you've completed school, but you have to move on to the next step, because completing school is not the only step. The next step is a certification. So by choosing a test date, you've now set a goal. If you say, I want to take this test in about 3 months, then you now know that you have a date, you have a deadline, and you have a goal. And you need to meet that date, that deadline, and that goal. So please, if you have not registered for a test yet, if you are still just sitting on your hands, because I know that it's June and many people probably graduated from nursing school in May, and you know, you're on vacation, you're having fun, you're meeting up with your friends and your family, you're doing all of the things that you could not do while you were in school. But please, do yourself a favor and start getting the process rolling and actually choose a test date for the exam. Number 2, it is very essential for you to then start looking into study material. I use 2 different types of study material. I bought books, and I also bought questions from a test bank. I did this because when I was taking the NCLEX exam, I did the exact same thing. I had a book that had all of the body systems. This is the NCLEX that I'm speaking of. I had a book that had all of the body systems, and it gave the key points and the most pertinent information about every system broken down. And that book also came with a CD-ROM that had about 2,500 questions or 1,500 questions. And what I would do is go between the 2 of them. Go to the book, read what you need to read, go over what you need to go over, and then take some of the practice questions. Because it's one thing for you to sit there and study and try to absorb information, but it's one thing to actually read questions and try to then decipher what's true, what's false, what's a maybe, and you then get very accustomed to taking the exam, very accustomed to how the test will flow, how the test will go, what types of questions and styles of questions that they ask. So for my nurse practitioner certification exam, I purchased 2 books. One was from Fitzgerald and one was from Leik, and I will include the names of the books down below. And I also purchased questions from a test bank, and the name of the test bank is Board Vitals. With Board Vitals, you have different subscriptions. You can buy, I believe, for 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, a year. And with that, you have a total of 2,500 questions. Now it's up to you to then decide how many questions you want to complete a day, and if you then want to extend your subscription, you have to pay another fee for them to extend it for that time frame. Those 2 really work for me, and I think you should probably look into that if you haven't already. Number 3, create a study plan. When I was taking the NCLEX exam, I was fresh out of college, barely had a job. I was like extremely part-time. So I had all the time in the world to study. I could study for hours on end and it wouldn't affect me. But now, with my nurse practitioner certification exam, I'm trying to take the certification exam while juggling a full-time job and juggling a personal life. And it's a matter of how much can I do in a day? How much can I squeeze in a day? So this is why it's important for you to choose a test date. I chose my test date 3 months out. So I said, okay, if I have 3 months, I can do this many hours of studying on the days that I'm working and this many hours of studying on the days that I'm off. And by doing that, I'm able to then focus on what I know and what I don't know. On the days when I'm working, I know that I might come home tired, exhausted, I may not be as focused. So on those days, I go over the systems and the material that I don't necessarily struggle with. And on the days that I'm off and I have more time, I start to tackle the body systems or the information that I know that I've struggled with. At this point, if you finish school, you know what's your favorite subject or topic and what's your least favorite. For me, for example, my favorite topic was, or body system, would be the neurological system. I was able to understand it. You explained it once, I got it. My least favorite was cardiac. It's always been that way. And even to this day, sometimes I have to like go over it before I'm able to really understand. So by creating a study plan, you know where to allocate your time and where not to allocate your time. It doesn't make sense to waste too much time on information that you know when you know there are information and topics that you struggle with. Now, with the book and test bank options, the book, of course, gives you a rundown, detailed information, pertinent information, and the test bank will give you the questions and also include the rationale as to why the answer is correct and why the question is incorrect. Now, I would suggest juggling between the two. You read up on a system, focus on that system. If you want to do, I don't know, a week on a system, do a whole week on that system. But while you're reading on it, while you're absorbing that information, while you're actually understanding what's going on, go over to the test bank and take questions and do questions that relate to that body system, just to see what you actually know and what you don't know. With Board Vitals, you have a total of 2,500 questions. You can break up the test into how many questions you want to do. I did 50 questions at a time. And by doing that, I just mixed the types of questions. I did assessment, diagnosis, planning, and evaluation for each body system. And I did about 50 questions. By then, of course, you take them, you see what you do well in, and you also see what you don't do well in. You can flag questions to review them. You can flag questions to throw them back into the test bank for a later time. And you can also just do the test in a timed fashion, just to get a sense of the time constraint that you also have when it comes to the certification exam. And the last and final thing, after you've chosen your test date, after you've researched all of the material that you need and your books are coming in and you have a subscription to a test bank, after you've created a study plan and actually started studying, the most important thing is for you to actually feel ready. If you are not prepared, do not take the exam. Because if you are anything like me and you suffer from test taking anxiety, feeling pressured because now that you've created a deadline, you have a goal, you have a date, and you have all of this information that you don't understand and you don't know, there's a huge chance that you may not pass the exam. I would suggest that, of course, you have your deadline. And as you're approaching your deadline, you have to be honest with yourself about if you feel confident, if you kind of feel confident, or if you don't feel confident. If you feel 100% confident, or if your confidence is up there and you think, you know what, I've only struggled with maybe a couple of topics, but as far as everything else, I'm good, go ahead, take the exam, try it. If you're a little confident, then it's up to you to then determine, should I extend it for a couple of more days? Should I push it back? Or should I just go take the exam and hope that I pass? But if you are not confident and you do not feel as though you are ready to take the exam, it's okay. Log back into that system and push it back. If you need to push it back a couple weeks, do that. If you need to push it back a few days, do that. By doing that, you then give yourself more time to focus on the information that you don't know. I suffer from test-taking anxiety. I've always had this issue, and I realize it now more so than I realized it when I was younger and I was in elementary school. I never had a problem when it came to understanding material. Bright student, no issue. But when it came time to taking tests, sometimes I will make what I would consider to be stupid mistakes. And I would, for example, multiple choice questions. If it's 4 options, I know 2 of them are definitely not right. But then when it comes down to the one that's definitely right and the one that's close to being right, that's where I'm like between back and forth. And 9 times out of 10, I would choose the one that's close to right, not the one that's actually right. And in nursing school, if you're a nursing student, then you've completed nursing school, my least favorite questions were the select all that apply, because of course you have all of the answers below and you have to choose the ones that apply. If you miss one answer, it's wrong. If you choose an extra answer and it's not right, then it's wrong. So that type of pressure never really worked for me. And with the nurse practitioner certification exam, doing the questions in the test bank, I realized that yes, there was a lot of information that I already knew I had no problems with. I did allocate a lot of my time to the body systems and the topics that were a little bit of an issue to me. But when it came time to taking the test bank, the practice questions, I noticed that I would do the exact thing that I've always had a problem with. I would choose the closest answer. And when I did not pass my exam on the first try, I received the paper from the board basically telling me that I was really close. I was really close to passing. So it's not like I was miserably, failing. But because I know myself that I went back, changed answers, I marked questions for me to review, and during the last few minutes, I'm stressed, I'm anxious, so I'm going back, I'm changing. I know that that's why I didn't pass the exam, in addition to the fact that I wasn't confident. But if you do not feel ready, please take your time, extend it date a couple days, a few weeks, a couple of weeks, whatever, what have you, and then go back, do what you need to do, and then officially sit down for the exam. So that's all of the information that I have for you guys. If you find this video helpful, please feel free to share it or comment. I will respond back with any suggestions or anything that I have. And if you are a recent grad, congratulations, and let's get this process going. Thank you so much for sitting in and watching this video, and I will hope to see you all in my next one. Bye.